the white pawn attacking. So we have covered the knight, the black pawn, and the white pawn. Now we're going to go on to the rook, the bishop, and the queen. The queen, once again, is very similar to the rook and the bishop combined together. So if I go through these two, the queen should be self-explanatory. I'm still going to just show how I have done it. So to fix the pawn behavior in en passant, it's quite an easy thing to do. You just go into the white pawn or the black pawn, and all you need to do is, we've already got this checking, but then you just need to add an and the canvas dot all squares blah 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 dot moves made equals 1, sorry, and that's going to fix it. Because what we already checked that the last move made has been that pawn moving, but we have never checked whether that was a 2 move forward move or if it was just a 1 move forward or anything other than that. So if you do this, that means that the move has in one move moved 2 squares forward, and you can en passant. So now we can go back to Game Manager. It's the same thing. It's the same thing in black pawn as well. You just add an and the canvas dot all squares blah 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 moves made equals 1, and that does actually fix it. I can even quickly demonstrate just for just in case somehow it manages not to work. Normal en passant works. If I do something like this, now I can't move my pawn there. And now to actually demonstrate with the king, to prove that nothing stupid is going to happen once again. Black's turn. Okay. How did I do this previously? It was much more efficient. Oh well. If I move, let's move that horse from side to side. And there. If I do something like this, I can perform en passant without moving, and I'm not allowed to move forward. If I move the black pawn one forward, I can't, because en passant is not a valid move now. It's the same thing for the black player, and I don't have to check that as well. It would take too long. So let's move on to the rook, the bishop, and the queen. The rook and the bishop work similarly, and then the queen just copies them, so we will start with the rook, as that is the simplest thing to start off with. So when I said in either this lesson or the previous lesson, I haven't decided how long this video is going to be yet, that what we started off with for working with the king castling conditions is going to be the easiest. I wasn't joking. This can be kind of tricky to get your head around. So as I'm iterating through all of the pieces, I am naming each one of them in turn called piece blocking. So imagine that there's a big for each loop above this, which is looking at all of the pieces which are of the color that I am controlling. And piece attacking is my opponent, and the piece attacking my king right now is a rook. The checking I do is I have a chain for long, which is for things long, for statements long, I guess, with similar things. So I check whether piece attacking the square of piece dot int row is greater than piece under attack the square of piece dot int row. What this means is the rook vertically above my king, and therefore having no piece in between them, and also attacking my king. So a situation like that would be something like if this pawn wasn't here and if there was a rook right there, then this would be true. I also have it is less than, the row is less than, i.e. the rook is below my king. Then I have the column is greater than, meaning the rook is to the left of, and then the column is less than, meaning my rook is to the right of my king. All of these are very similar to each other, so I'm not going to go into too much detail in all of them. I'm just going to go into detail of one of them. So if this is true, then I use a for each loop to go through the the piece blocking valid moves copy. So I'm going through all of the valid moves of the piece which it can potentially block the attack of the rook. As I'm doing that, I am removing some moves which wouldn't block. Now, the way I check whether a move would block the rook's attack is by using this if statement, which has 2 parts to it. We have the does list contain element, piece attacking the valid moves, and the valid move. So the valid move in this case is going to be the square which this piece can move to potentially protect the king. And if this square can be found in the list of the piece attacking, i.e. the rook valid moves, then that means that I can block the attack. So what this means is, let's get something up here. I think this was the best way to do it. Because I was testing this so many times, I figured out quite an efficient way of bringing everything into position, just with enough moves. So I move the rook there. The rook is above my king, which is, I believe, currently what we're looking at. Piece attacking, so the rook's row is above the king's row. Yep, that's what we were looking at. So let's put this to one side and this to the other side, just for them to look at it more easily. So this rook now has one of its moves which intercepts the attack of my attacking piece, the other rook. And if any other move doesn't meet this condition, then it's just removed. The other checking I do is to check whether something like this can happen. So if the rook can straight away just take out my opponent's piece, then that is also acceptable. And the reason I check that separately is because over here I can't put a greater than or equal to, because if I put an equal to, then it will also take things like this into consideration and never execute this code. So if this is a valid move, then it is going to let me do that. Otherwise, if it's not going to block the attack or kill the piece which is making the attack, then it's going to be removed from the piece blocking, the piece which can potentially block valid moves. Similarly, it's over here, but this part does change. So as you can probably notice, this whole selection is the same as this whole selection, but with the piece under attack being changed with the valid move. So and you can also notice the knots I have in front of these. So I am blacklisting things. I found that to be the easiest way. Or is it, I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure that this would be whitelisting. If you blacklisting. If you whitelisted, then you would be adding on. And so if it doesn't meet this condition, then it's removed. If it doesn't meet this condition, then it's also removed. Well, if it meets at least one of these conditions with the knot, it is removed. And the other condition is not piece attacking dot square of, well, not piece attacking dot square of piece dot int row is greater than the valid move dot int row. So if the valid move is below the piece attacking, and also notice the and is preferred, and the piece is not equal to or the valid move. So this part checks if the attack is going to kill the piece. And then I have a very similar thing over here. So I'm not going to go into those. You can just read it. The only part that changes is this part.